man who loved me into a living ghost. It started with a headache, just a small, dull throb right behind my eyes every single Tuesday morning. I thought it was just the stress of my job. I'm a lead architect at a firm in Chicago, and the Millennium Tower project was, well, it was eating me alive. My husband Julian was my Roske, truly. Every morning, he'd bring me this green goddess smoothie. He called it his special blend. Spinach, kale, ginger, and a proprietary mix of high-end supplements he'd ordered from some boutique lab in Switzerland. He'd kiss my forehead, tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear, and say, "Drink up, Casey. You're gonna conquer the world today." But I didn't conquer the world. By 10 a.m., my hands would start to shake. Just a little bit at first, like I'd had one too many espressos. But by noon, I couldn't even hold a stylus. My vision would blur, and this FOG would settle over my brain. I'd be in a board meeting, looking at blueprints I'd designed, and they looked like gibberish, alien symbols. I went to the doctors, so many doctors. They ran blood work, MRIs, EKGs, and found nothing. Generalized anxiety disorder, they said. Burnout, they told me. Julian would sit in those appointments, holding my hand so tight his knuckles went white. He'd look at the doctors with these big, soulful eyes and ask, "Is there anything else we can do? I'm watching the woman I love, the sapper." He was such a saint. Everyone said so. My mother, my friends, even my boss. Julian took over everything. He handled the bills, the cooking, the house. He even started managing my emails when I got too tired to look at a screen. Then came the big drop. That's what I call it now. It was a Thursday. I was supposed to present the final renders for the Millennium Project. It was a $10 million contract. I took my smoothie. I felt okay for an hour. And then I woke up on the floor of the office break room. My face was wet. I'd had a seizure. The firm put me on indefinite medical leave. Julian was there to catch me. Literally. He picked me up from the hospital, drove me home in silence, and spent the next 3 months protecting me. He took my phone away because the blue light was bad for my recovery. He blocked my sister, Tess, because her high energy was triggering my episodes. I was a prisoner in a house made of organic cotton sheets and expensive candles. The turning point, the moment my life shattered, happened on a Tuesday. Of course it was a Tuesday. Julian had gone to the grocery store. He'd been gone for exactly 22 minutes. Tess didn't call. She didn't knock. She climbed through the bathroom window. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling that familiar, heavy, dragging sensation in my limbs. When she crawled over the tub, I thought I was hallucinating. "Casey," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We have 5 minutes. Get up. Julian says I need rest." I slurred. My tongue felt like a piece of lead. "Julian is a liar," she snapped. She grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the vanity. She didn't go for my jewelry box. She didn't go for my purse. She went for the special blend supplement canister in the kitchen. She dumped it out on the counter. It looked like normal green powder. But then she pulled a small magnetic wand out of her pocket. She ran it over the powder. And my heart, it just estaped. The green powder stayed still. But these tiny black metallic flakes, they leaped out of the pile. They clumped together on the magnet like a swarm of angry insects. "It's thallium, Casey," Tess said, tears streaming down her face. "And lead, and some kind of research chemical I found in his search history. On the old iPad he forgot to wipe. He's been microdosing you for 14 months. I couldn't breathe." "Why?" I gasped. "The insurance?" "I don't have a policy. It's not insurance," Tess said, looking over her shoulder at the driveway. "It's the trust. Grandma's estate. It only vests if you're incapacitated, if you're mentally unfit to manage your own affairs. The control goes to your spouse. He's already filed the paperwork, Casey. He's already applied for guardianship of your person in your estate. He wasn't just killing you. He was healing you." The sound of a car pulling into the gravel driveway hit us like a gunshot. "Crunch, crunch, crunch. Go," I whispered. "Tess, go." She didn't want to leave me, but she knew. If he saw her, it was over. She grabbed a sample of the powder, shoved it into a Ziploc bag, and vanished back through the window just as the front door clicked open. "Casey? Honey?" Julian's voice was like, "Honey?" Poured over broken glass. "I got those organic blueberries you like." I stayed in bed. I closed my eyes. I felt him enter the room. I felt the bed dip as he sat beside me. He stroked my hair. It was the same loving gesture he'd done 1,000 times. "How are we doing?" "Yeah, tired," I said. It wasn't a lie. I was tired of being a victim. "That's okay," he whispered. "The new batch of supplements should be here tomorrow. We'll get you back to normal soon. Just you and me. Forever." I waited. I waited for him to fall asleep. The shakes were bad that night. My body was craving the very thing that was destroying it. I crawled on my hands and knees to the guest room. I found my old laptop, the one Julian thought was broken. I didn't check my email. I didn't check the news. I checked the home security app, the one I'd installed 3 years ago. The one Julian, in his arrogance, thought I'd forgotten the password to. I scrolled back to that morning, to 7:15 a.m. There he was, in high definition, my saint of a husband. He was standing in the kitchen, wearing his world's best husband apron. He was whistling, a cheerful, jaunty little tune. He pulled a small silver vial out of a hidden compartment in the spice rack. He measured out 2, 3, 4 drops into my green smoothie. Then he took a long, thin needle and injected something into my daily vitamin capsules. He held the smoothie up to the light like a fine wine. He smiled, a real, genuine, happy smile. And then he did something that made me want to rip my own skin off. He took out his phone and he made a call. I turned the volume all the way up. "Hey babe," he said. His voice was different, brighter, younger. "Yeah, she's almost there. Another month, maybe 2. The lawyer says the guardianship hearing is a slam dunk. Once the trust clears, we're buying the villa in Tuscany, just like we planned." He paused, listening to whoever was on the other end. I know, he laughed. "It's been a grind playing the doting husband. You should see me, Tiffany. I deserve an Oscar. I cry on command at the doctor's office. It's honestly hilarious." He hung up and took the smoothie toward the bedroom, toward Emmy. I sat on that floor in the dark, and I didn't cry. The tears had been poisoned out of me. I didn't call the police. Not yet. I knew Julian. I knew how charming he was. If I called now, he'd just tell them I was having another episode. He'd show them my medical records. He'd show them my anxiety diagnosis. They'd take me to a psych ward, and he'd be the one holding the keys. No, I needed a different kind of justice. The next morning, I performed. "Drink up, Casey," he said, handing me the glass. I looked him right in the eyes. I saw the monster behind the mask, and I smiled. "Thank you, Julian. I don't know what I'd do without
without you. I took a sip. I let the liquid hit my tongue, and then I accidentally tripped. The glass shattered on the tile. The green liquid splattered everywhere. Oh no, I cried, sounding weak, helpless. I'm so clumsy. Julian, I'm so sorry. His face flickered just for a second. A flash of poor, unadulterated rage. But then the mask snapped back on. It's okay, honey, he said, his voice tight. I'll make another one. No, I said, grabbing his hand. Don't bother. I'm feeling actually a little better today. Maybe the fog is lifting. He didn't like that. Not one bit. Casey, the doctor said, consistency is key. You need your nutrients. I want a real breakfast. I said, let's go to that diner. The one with the big pancakes. Please, Julian. For me, he hesitated. He didn't want me out in public, but he also didn't want to break character. Okay, he sighed. One breakfast. But then, straight back to bed, we went to the diner. I sat there, picking at a piece of dry toast. My hands were shaking. For real this time, from the adrenaline. I saw her in the corner booth. Tess. She was wearing a wig and sunglasses. She looked at me and nodded once. I stood up. I have to use the restroom, I said. Julian started to stand. I'll walk you. Julian, I said a little louder than necessary. I can walk 10 feet to the bathroom. I'm not an invalid yet. A few people at the next table looked over. Julian, ever the gentleman, sat back down with an embarrassed smile. Of course, honey. Take your time. I didn't go to the bathroom. I walked straight out the kitchen exit. Tess was waiting in her car, the engine already running. Go, I screamed as I threw myself into the passenger seat. We didn't go to the police station. We went to a private toxicology lab 3 towns over. The one Tess had pre-booked. They took my blood. They took my hair. They took the sample from the canister. And then we waited. We stayed at a safe house for domestic abuse survivors. It was a nondescript brick building with bars on the windows. For the first time in a year, I felt safe. 3 days later, the results came back. The lab director, a woman with a face like granite, sat me down. Miss Miller, she said, I've been doing this for 30 years. I have never seen levels this high in a living person. She showed me the charts. My body was a chemical wasteland. You should be dead, she said. The only reason you're not is because the doses were calculated. Whoever did this wasn't trying to kill you quickly. They were marinating you, turning your nervous system into a short circuit. I handed her the thumb drive. The one with the kitchen footage, I think. I said, my voice, finally, stronger. You should give this to the district attorney. The arrest wasn't a quiet affair. I made sure of that. I went back to the house alone. I knew Julian would be there. I knew he'd be waiting. When I walked through the front door, he was sitting in the dark in the living room. He had a glass of scotch in one hand, a special blend canister in the other. Where have you been, Casey? He asked. His voice was cold. The mask was gone. I was getting a second opinion, I said. I flipped on the lights. He stood up. He looked pathetic. You think you're so smart. You think you can just leave? You're sick, Casey. You're unstable. I have the medical records to prove it. I have the LAB records, Julian, I said. And I have the video. He froze. What video? The spice rack, I whispered. Top shelf, behind the saffron. You really should check for firmware updates on your security system, Julian. It records to the cloud now. Even when the base station is unplugged, his face went gray. A true, sickly, Asian gray. I loved you, he hissed. I gave up my care for you. You never had a career, Julian, I snapped. You were a failed writer who found a better plot in my bank account. You didn't love me. You loved the idea of being a wealthy widower. He lunged for me, but he didn't get far. The front door and the back door exploded inward at the same time. 6 officers from the major crimes unit swarmed the room. Julian was on the floor in seconds, cuffed. Wait, he's crazy. She's crazy. She's Delcy's Delcional. Check her blood. She's on drugs. The lead detective, a man named Henderson, looked down at him with utter disgust. Oh, we checked her blood, Julian, and we checked yours. We found the vials in your car, and we found Tiffany at the airport with 2 one-way tickets to Rome. Julian stopped, screaming. He just deflated. The trial was a media circus. The Saint of Lincoln Park, they called him. Tiffany, the other woman, turned on him. In exchange for immunity, she testified for 6 hours. She told the jury how they'd laughed about my seizures, how Julian would call her from the hospital waiting room to talk about furniture for the villa. I sat in the front row every single day. I wore my best suits. I made sure my hair was perfect. I wanted him to see exactly what he'd tried to destroy. When it was my turn to testify, I didn't use a script. I looked at the jury and I told them about the fog. I told them how it feels to have the person you trust most in the world slowly erase your mind. He didn't just poison my body. I said my voice, echoing in the silent courtroom. He poisoned my reality. He made me believe I was broken so he could fix me into a grave. Julian was sentenced to 25 years. Attempted murder, aggravated battery with a toxic substance, identity theft, and insurance fraud because of course he'd been skimming from my medical claims too. It's been 2 years now. I'm still an architect, but I don't work in skyscrapers anymore. I design restorative spaces, healing centers for people who have survived the unthinkable. The shakes never fully went away. My left hand still trembles when I'm tired. My liver is permanently compromised. I'll be on medication for the rest of my life to counteract the medication he gave me. But every morning I make my OWN breakfast. I drink plain black coffee and I look out the window at the world, a world that is sharp and clear and mine. Julian tried to turn me into a ghost, but he forgot one thing. Ghosts have a way of haunting the truth until it's finally free. Thank you for listening. If you've ever felt like your reality was being slipped away from you, trust your gut, because sometimes the person holding the medicine is the one making you sick.